I just noticed that I have a couple of widgets here showing current time, and they don't agree on what time is it. There's a 1 minute gap between two of them. So whatever it is, it's time to start. So welcome everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are in the world. This is the Object Storage Working Group. Today is December 14th, and this is the APAC-friendly weekly meeting. So let's get started with the agenda. So the first thing is action items from last week. We were describing the current status of object storage. Give the mic to Matthias on this.
Yeah, I closed this out. There are still some gaps that I wasn't able to figure out. I'm thinking, because we spent a lot of time on it already, and it wasn't completely sure like how we would use that information going forward. I would say, like, let's just see, you know, if we still need to fill in these gaps, we can just do it like when we need it on a particular task. Other than that, we have a structure now. Yeah, we looked at what the structure is in object storage for like it's like a dozen or so different features, kind of what kind of upload they use. Yeah, just have a look and let me know if there's anything else missing that you think is crucial. Otherwise, we consider it done.
Thank you, Matthias. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, we can fill the blanks if we need them. I want to go to Marin with this just to figure out what he needs out of this, because there are, as we said in the beginning, there are kind of two needs for this collection of requirements. Not collection of status, what we have right now, the current feature set. One was that we take into account what we have to design the new system. The other one is also for Marin for help showing how broad this topic is and how spread is among the various group and stages. And I think so. Let's try to figure out what he needs, what we need, and then we can move on.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Thank you. Collecting requirement for the new solution. So Grzegorz.
Yeah, so I have not been able to create this Google Doc with all the requirements yet. I plan to do that before the next meeting. We had, however, quite interesting discussion with Marshall on the issue, and I think that's actually a progress. So there is this idea about building the next object storage solution or iteration on top of OCI registry, and right now our container registry is kind of compliant with OCI artifacts, not fully, but there's some work done there to make it fully compatible. It's not clear yet if that's a good direction or not. More discussions will be required, and I think that in order to make this a bit more objective, we need to enumerate these requirements, add container registry as a solution, score it correctly, and this will actually shed some light on how good or how bad solution this might be. So I think it might be difficult to move forward without objective criteria that we will use to evaluate our options. So yeah, so that's my conclusion after the discussions, that a bit more objective approach might be beneficial.
I posted a comment on that. In the package team, we have a glimpse of what it is of using the container registry to get data, because we need to get data for the container images. And right now it's really complex. And so I don't want members to have this false feeling that, yeah, we can put everything in the container registry and everything will work as it is. Currently, the API of the container registry is really not in a great shape. And as a very small example, there is an endpoint that will give you a list of objects, and that endpoint is not paginated at all. So if you have thousands of objects, you receive thousands of objects. And so it's not impossible to improve the link between Rails and the container registry, but it needs a lot of work.
So I think that everyone is aware of these problems. At least I'm aware. I've been involved in implementing container registry, evaluating the notifications API and stuff like that. So it's clear that it's not a simple problem to solve. And there are probably solutions to that. We can probably treat of a container registry as a secondary storage, like we still might need to store data in PostgreSQL metadata, right? And then we can actually store blobs through the container registry. It might be possible, but I'm not entirely convinced yet that this solution would be aligned with the problems we are trying to solve. Like, it might actually solve something. It's not really clear if the something that this would solve would be the problems we have right now. So
Yeah,
that's why I'm thinking about actually scoring the solution against the problems we want to solve.
we should also keep in mind, and that goes back to a comment I left early on this whole requirements document, is that so far, what I can tell, we've been looking at the requirements from through a very technical lens. Like, we try to identify what is kind of the cross section of all of the stuff that involves object storage, and what are the requirements kind of coming out of that. But that completely ignores the feature level requirements for the actual products that are built on top of this. If you look, for instance, at design management, they need versioning in their features. So if you upload designs, you can create multiple versions of a design, and then you can go back to older versions as well. Like, is that something that like a container registry would support as well? So because I think that's why they use Git right now, right, and Git LFS. So maybe it does. I'm just saying that was not part of this table, right, because it's specific to design management. It's not in this cross section of requirements. So we need to be really careful that we don't like look at this only through a technical lens and completely ignore what's happening on the product level.
So I think that's interesting, because it makes me wonder if we are talking about this solution on the right abstraction level, because the container registry might actually be a viable solution at a different abstraction level. If we hide this behind everything, it's just a storage backend, and we still do have PostgreSQL metadata in between. We still do have workhorse and everything else in between, right? So it feels like, should we think more about on which abstraction level we want to place the new solution? Does it need to be in front or on the backend? Because it like ultimately is going to be a different solution, right? If we want to have this getaway with some business rules around how we store data along with metadata, it will be placed in at the front of entire stack. If we want to actually use the container registry or any kind of other artifacts registry, it might be at the back, but then the problems at the front will remain unsolved still, right? So it's like which abstraction, which level of abstraction, which layer we want to actually inject the solution in or move into. So that's something that we need to somehow capture, I believe, or describe, so that it's made a bit more explicit what we want to solve, how we want to do that. And it kind of depends on where the problems are, right? Because artifact registry might be a viable solution, but the problems are on a different level. The problems are more in the front, not in the back. So if we kind of somehow document that, it might help us to move forward towards better solution more quickly, I guess.
Yeah, these are all good and valid points. Thank you, all of you, for expressing those. So I want to quickly chime in. Yesterday, I had a coffee chat with Marshall, just to figure out where he is with his thinking on this. So we kind of agreed that the thing he was proposing is not at the right level for what we are trying to do here. So he will probably join the working groups next week, because he lives in the US, so this time zone doesn't help here. So maybe next week he will join. So what he told me is that basically it will probably will try to focus more on packages so that the registry can be, let's say, we can try to iron out the details on what the OCI artifact registry can do in the context of packages, where is more in line with the original solution of the OCI registry. And then keeping this in mind, maybe something that we want to work on after we, not as a first iteration on the object storage working group, because what I was mentioning to him, and I think I'm quite sure we may be all in agreement with this, is that right now, storage is not the top of our problem. So how to store the things in object storage is kind of, by some degree, well known and is working with string attached, but is working. While we have problems with how we finalize those things on Rails, how we keep metadata about where things are. And so I would say I would not like to spend 1 year of engineering time working on something that is replacing the only part of the, I would say only part is a bit too much, but say the biggest part of object storage implementation that is working in the current state. I mean, I see that we will improve it. This is not a problem, but I will focus on things that are not working right now. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I think these are all great points, but I also think we should somehow capture that somewhere in a Google Doc, Google spreadsheet, blueprint, because after talking about that, it's kind of clear that we want to solve problems and like not backend storage per se, but
yeah,
this we should somehow implement that and document that. And I'm not sure what would be the best way to do that. So if anyone has suggestions, like, please let us know.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of we are at this point, which is kind of tricky, because right now we need to get something out of those requirements that is more actionable. Actionable means not that we start implementing it, but we can score solution based on what we think are those requirements. So
When do we have the next meeting? Is that
next week but is in our afternoon, Grzegorz.
Okay, yeah. So I will try to prepare these requirements by then. So I'm sorry for not doing that before today.
Yeah, I mean, no problem. This is not everyone's full-time job. We have other assignments. This is how working groups work. So no problem. Okay, so I mean, let's try to move in this conversation. I encourage everyone to try to participate in this type of effort. I don't know if either means trying to schedule some time together, if someone wants to help and join people that are doing this type of things. I encourage you doing, as well as also encourage you to not only consider the meeting time as the time you are involved in this. If you have an idea or you have something you want to write down, propose, or maybe explore a bit more, just gather someone else in the working group that wants to do this with you and do it, so that we can move things asynchronously, not only in what we are doing in this weekly meeting. Okay. I don't think we have other information about the customer data, so we'll skip that one unless someone knows something and can stop me now. No. So Grzegorz, back to you.
Yeah, so the last week, I think it was the last week or the week before, we had this incident with database contention coming from logs that were caused by presumably carrier wave removing data from packages inside a transaction. I think there's an RCA completed. I have not yet. Okay, so thanks for linking it. There is this RCA completed, so I will take a look, but
it's not exactly completed. The final step is still with open question, but yeah, it's almost done.
Yeah, so the question I got asked is, are there other endpoints that are potentially affected by this problem in the API, and so that this does not happen again? And I think that we concluded that actually removing data probably only a problem within packages, because packages inherently consist of many objects, and when you remove a very large package, it removes many objects. And that's kind of interesting, because we solve that problem with pages, and we store pages as zip, and we make it possible to access files inside the zip artifact to actually avoid problem with many objects. I'm not sure if that's an opportunity in case of a package, but that's off topic.
Yeah, some clients are uploading over several requests, so you have to reopen the zip and add stuff to it.
Okay, that's interesting. So that's probably not possible.
I think this is correct, David. Am I right on this? No, some package implementation are doing multiple. Okay.
Some package formats like Maven will not upload a single file, but a set of files.
Okay, that's really interesting. So this probably won't work. But back to the point, we got asked if we can actually review the API and other endpoints and check if these are not vulnerable to this. And while I believe that removing data might actually not be a problem outside of package, I think it's possible that uploading data might be, because upload still happens inside the transaction, and when a file is large, it can actually cause a long transaction. So yeah, so I'm not sure how to make progress on this, but we got explicitly asked to check that by the executive. So it feels like it's important to actually get some answers for them.
So should we try to organize something where we do some kind of brain juice thing and try to figure out what is, because I'm thinking about uploads, for example. I do agree with you. Deleting stuff, I think it's only packages. On uploads, I can point to a couple of issues, but the point is that if direct upload is implemented, this happens outside of database transaction, which is good. The point is that the finalization call, which we are aiming to remove, is it's within the transaction, and depending on which object storage implementation you are using, may be faster or slower. So AWS, thanks to stun patching the gem, what is the fog gem? I think fog AWS can do multi-part upload, which is parallelized and is going from object storage to object storage. So S3 will copy over an object which is already there. So it's kind of fast. If it's a big file, it's big. I mean, we have customer reporting that they were uploading a 25 gigabyte LFS object and add timeouts. Yeah, so I mean, but I think it's a very specific use case. So that one is good. But it may change from object storage implementation to object storage implementation, because it really depends how things are copied over.
So I think what we are, the object storage implementation we are mostly interested in right now is Google Cloud Storage, because this ask is about GitLab.com.
Yeah, sure. Good point.
So I wonder if we can actually open an issue about that and collaborate there. Of course, it should be a confidential issue. And that's kind of a security issue as well, because someone who knows how to upload a very large file and work around limits can cause denial of service on the database level. So perhaps we can spend some time investigating that. Perhaps someone from this working group actually has this knowledge about places where this problem can be present. And if you do, please document that in the issue. So I will open the issue after the meeting and post it to the agenda and the working group Slack channel.
Thank you, Grzegorz. I think, David, this is what we were discussing a couple of weeks ago in the working group channel, where me, you, and Sam, we were trying to figure out what happens if there are things that are kind of require extra storage. So I think if we go back searching those messages, we will have some kind, because Stan was giving us, I think, a direct link in the code base where those things are happening. So it can be, yeah, I mean, we can spend some time on this and just writing something that is exec friendly, and we can make
So I can make it like I can work on a summary, but if you, Alessio, or someone else can spend some time finding these messages from Stan and documenting them in the issue I would create, that would be greatly appreciated.
Sure, sure.
Can you ping me also in the issue? I think NPM packages are at risk because those are uploaded in a way that we can't use direct upload. So workers can't accelerate those uploads for now. And yeah, I think we might have an issue there.
Is because of the JSON encoding?
Yeah, exactly. The whole archive is in a JSON encoded structure. We scheduled the worker support for a later milestone, but still we are discussing what we have currently.
Thank you. Okay, if there are no extra discussion on this topic, the next item is mine. This is just a just a status update. So I open up a separate issue to understand if we can deprecate and remove this pseudonymizer, which no one seems to know what it's doing. I mean, maybe it seems to be something related to the old Miltano integration. So one less bucket if we can remove it. So yeah,
it's a great. Thank you for doing that. Great work. It's always the more we can shrink this down, the better, right?
Yeah, I was also having this fear that we kind of figured this out and we forgot because it was in this big discussion which was related to many things. So this is a clear action item. So let's move this elsewhere. Okay. So any other topic not in the agenda? Well, if not, I give all of you back about 10 minutes, something less. Thank you for joining the weekly call and see you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.